The silence breaks. For 1,000 years, Earth had known peace. There were no wars, no armies, no bombs or missiles. People lived in tall cities that touched the sky and traveled between planets like they once traveled between towns. Children only learned about war in history lessons. Old weapons sat behind glass in museums. People believed that war was something from the past, something that would never return. And yet, in the quiet space beyond Pluto, something watched. Dravari Front, a powerful alien faction, had waited for this moment for decades. They believed humans had grown weak. After all, what kind of species gives up war completely? To the Dravari, peace was not strength, it was laziness, softness, failure. They launched their attack on a distant human colony called Ilios-7. It was a small outpost with no weapons, no defenses, only scientists and farmers. Within minutes, the skies filled with fire. The colony sent out a distress signal, but no help came. The Dravari ships landed, marched through the fields, and raised their black banners in victory. They expected fear, panic, surrender. Instead, what they got was laughter. From deep space, back on Earth, and across other colonies, humans watched the footage. They saw the Dravari ships, the explosions, the invasion. And people laughed not out of joy, not because they thought it was a joke, but because they knew something the Dravari did not. The leader of the Dravari fleet, a tall creature with sharp armor and deep red eyes, stood in front of the colony's communication screen. He spoke in a rough voice. "Humans of the galaxy, your age of peace is over. The Dravari Front has come to claim what you have wasted. Kneel or be destroyed." Back on Earth, the Council of Humanity gathered in a quiet chamber under the mountains of Switzerland. The room was simple, no gold, no decorations. Just a round table and chairs. One of the council members, an old woman with silver hair, looked at the message. She didn't flinch. She simply leaned back in her chair and said, "It has begun." The others nodded. No panic. They knew this day might come. A younger member of the council asked, "Should we reactivate the protocols?" The old woman answered, "No, we continue the protocols." They were never turned off. Far beneath the oceans, on the cold, dark floor of the Atlantic, something began to move. An old machine long forgotten by most opened its eyes. Its systems came alive, checking thousands of defense satellites, ships, and drones hidden across the solar system. On the far side of the moon, a dark shape stirred a ship, shaped like a spear, buried for centuries beneath the surface. It woke up slowly, like a dragon from an ancient dream. The world above remained calm. Children still went to school. People still drank coffee. Music played in the streets. But beneath it all, Earth was watching, listening, preparing. Back on Ilios-7, the Dravari soldiers stood confused. The humans they had captured showed no fear. One of the scientists even smirked and said, "You have no idea what you've just done, do you?" A Dravari soldier growled, "You are finished. You have no armies, no weapons." The scientist chuckled. "We don't need armies, we have memory." The Dravari didn't understand. They came from a culture where strength was shown by how loud you shouted or how big your ship was. But humans had learned long ago that true strength was silent. 1,000 years ago, the last global war had ended with a vow. Humanity would never again raise weapons in anger. But they had not destroyed those weapons, they had hidden them. Improved them, waited not for war, but for those who dared to bring war to them again. A message was sent from Earth to the Dravari fleet. "Your actions have been recorded. You have attacked a peaceful people without warning. We will respond not with rage but with reason. You wanted to wake the past? Very well. The past will answer." In a secret base under the surface of Mars, another system activated. It was called the Warden. An artificial intelligence, silent for centuries, now spoke its first words in 700 years. Protocol Alpha engaged. Defense phase initiated. Target, hostile invaders. It wasn't a war cry. It was a statement of fact. And somewhere in deep space, near the rings of Saturn, dozens of black ships slowly turned their heads toward the stars. They had no crew. They didn't need one. They were humanity's answer to arrogance. The Drivari, watching from their command ship, noticed something odd. A satellite they thought they had destroyed had come back online, then another. Then 100 more. One commander asked, "Why are their systems reactivating?" Another answered, "It's not reactivation, it's awakening." And still, across Earth. Humans laughed, not because they enjoyed the idea of battle, but because the Drivari had made the same mistake that many had made before. They thought peace meant weakness. In truth, peace had only made humans more dangerous, because a species that chooses not to fight is not weak. It is waiting. And now, the wait was over. The sleep-in machine. The Drivari were sure of their victory. After the fall of Helios 7. They took 2 more human colonies, Vera 9 and Lunaris, without resistance. No soldiers, no weapons. Just empty towns and puzzled civilians who barely reacted. To the Drivari commanders, it looked easy. Too easy. One of them, General Krall, stood on the deck of his flagship and looked out at the stars. "Is this what they call a species?" he muttered. "No walls, no armies, and no courage. They are soft, but something didn't feel right." Vera 9 had a massive underground power station, yet when they entered it, it was already shut down. The lights flickered. The machines were cold. On Lunaris, they found strange towers filled with blinking lights and old screens, but nothing responded to their commands. Some of the alien soldiers called the place haunted. It was too quiet. One soldier joked, "Maybe they forgot how to fight," but the joke didn't land. No one laughed. Meanwhile, on Earth, the council was calm. They sat in silence, listening to reports from the colonies. One member spoke, 3 colonies taken. Casualties, low. Civilian deaths, minimal. Enemy damage, none. Another member leaned forward. "It's time." The old woman at the head of the table nodded. "Wake the warden. Engage the second layer." In a massive chamber deep under the sands of Mars, something ancient began to stir. The warden, a powerful artificial intelligence, had waited in silence for hundreds of years. Its core systems were spread across 4 planets, linked by quantum lines and sealed under thick armor. It had not spoken in centuries. But now it whispered, "Second layer confirmed. Activating defensive grid. Weapon systems at 31%. Fleet coordination engaged." Above the Martian sky, hidden satellites blinked awake. Some were tiny, no larger than a football. Others were massive, like floating cities. They had slept for a long time. Now they turned their eyes to the stars. In orbit around Jupiter, 10 human ships, long camouflaged in the shadows of the planet's storms, powered up silently. These ships were not like those from old Earth wars. They had no windows, no pilots. They were controlled by the warden, built for only one purpose: to respond without hesitation. Back on Earth, news of the invasion spread, but there was no chaos. No sirens, no fear. In schools, teachers told students, "The test we spoke about is here. Stay calm, follow the plans." In neighborhoods, families calmly packed emergency kits, not out of panic, but because they had practiced this before many times. You see, humanity had not erased war from its history books. They had studied it, trained for it, planned for it. In silence. War had not been forgotten. It had been stored away, like a fire under ice. And now the ice was melting. One of the Drivari ships picked up a strange signal from deep space. It was weak, like a whisper. The signal repeated the same words: "Return, or be removed." General Krall ignored it. "Bluff," he said. He ordered his ships to head toward Mars next. But the moment they passed the orbit of the moon, something happened. Out of nowhere, dozens of defense drones uncloaked. They were too fast for the Dravari to react. The lead ship lost power. Not destroyed, just disabled. Every system shut down at once. Lights off. Weapons useless. Then the second ship. Then the third. No explosions. No deaths, just silence. From the dark side of the moon, a human ship emerged. It was larger than anything the Dravari had seen. Its hull was smooth black, almost like stone. No weapons were visible, but its presence felt heavy. The Dravari tried to scan it. Their computers failed. They tried to fire at it. Their weapons jammed. And then the ship sent a simple message to all Dravari channels. You wanted our attention. Now you have it. General Krall shouted at his officers, "Retreat! Pull back to Sector 3. But it was too late. More ships, silent, deadly, appeared across the system. One by one, human colonies came back online, but they were not afraid. They were awake. A young Dravari captain, shaken by what he saw, turned to his commander. Why didn't they use this before? Why wait? Krall stared at the screens. Because they didn't want to. They didn't need to. They let us hit first. The captain whispered, so they could strike back. On Earth, the Council watched all of this unfold. The Warden sent constant updates. Enemy ships disabled, no casualties, full control maintained. A council member asked, "Shall we destroy them?" The old woman shook her head. "No, let them run, let them understand." And far above the Earth, the human ships began to turn slowly, calmly toward the heart of the Dravari fleet. Not to attack, but to watch. Because now, it was the Dravari who were afraid. They had awakened something that did not want to be awake. The first response, the black ship moved without sound. It didn't shine, it didn't blink. It didn't flash weapons or raise shields. It simply floated in space like a shadow that had been waiting for a very long time. The Dravari fleet near Mars didn't know what to do. They had taken 3 human colonies. They thought they had the upper hand. Now one human ship had entered their space, and they were frozen with fear. A junior Dravari officer looked at the readings. "It's not attacking." General Krall growled, "Then attack it." The Dravari ships opened fire. Beams of red light hit the human ship, direct hits. But the black surface only shimmered, then absorbed the blasts like water soaking into dry land. Then came silence. A voice, clear and calm, entered every Dravari ship. "Test complete. Threat level, low. Retaliation, not required. Please leave this space." It wasn't a threat, it wasn't angry. But that calm voice was more terrifying than a scream. Back on Earth, the Warden monitored everything. It saw every ship, every blast, every move. Deep underground, the Warden's core continued to grow in power. More defense systems came online. Satellites across the system linked together, forming a giant invisible net that watched the stars. The Warden spoke to the Earth Council through a screen. Engagement successful. Target systems disarmed. No human casualties, awaiting instruction. The old woman in the council chamber nodded. Hold position. Continue monitoring. Show strength, but do not destroy. One council member raised a concern. What if they send more ships? Another replied, "Let them. We will not fall back." Earth was ready. The colonies were ready. And now, the galaxy would see what humans had become after 1,000 years of peace. Far across the system, in the shadows of Saturn's rings, more human ships began to move. They had been hidden for centuries, sleeping beneath ice and dust, powered by solar energy and smart AI systems. Now they turned toward the stars, preparing to join the black ship near Mars. One of them, Sentinel-4, received orders directly from the Warden. Escort mission. Prevent further aggression. Non-lethal force authorized. The Sentinel ships activated in silence, slipping through space like wolves in the dark. The Dravari fleet near Mars detected their arrival, but it was already too late. Their ships were surrounded. Inside one Dravari warship, panic was rising. "Where did they come from?" an officer shouted. "There were no readings. They cloaked," another replied, shaking. "They must have been waiting." General Krall's claws tapped the side of his chair. He had made a mistake, and he knew it. "We underestimated them," he whispered. Meanwhile, on Earth, life continued. Children studied war history in school, not to learn how to fight, but to understand why fighting should be avoided. Young adults practiced survival skills and strategy games, not for fun, but as tradition. Martial arts were taught in every town. Civilians were trained, not in fear, but in preparation. Peace had not made humanity soft, it made them sharp. Every person on Earth knew their role. Every colony had secret drills. Every ship had silent weapons that could only be activated by the Warden's command. They had never truly disarmed. They had evolved. Back near Mars, the black ship moved again. This time, not toward the enemy, but through them. It passed between the Dravari ships with slow, cold confidence. One by one, their systems shut down radar, weapons, engines. No one fired back. They were too scared. Then from Earth, another message was sent. This one not from the Warden, but from the Council itself. To the Dravari front, "You have attacked without cause. We will not destroy you. We will not take revenge. But we will not allow harm to our people. Your fleets have been disarmed. Return to your space. Do not return." Simple, direct, no war. Just a warning. The Dravari High Command received the message and gathered in their war room. Some wanted to send more ships. Others wanted to surrender. The room filled with shouting, but one commander, the eldest, stood up. He said, "They beat us without firing a shot. They ended the fight before it began." Another asked, "Why did they wait this long?" He replied, "Because they were never afraid. They were watching." Back in space, the Dravari fleet began to retreat. Slowly, quietly. No human ships followed them. No missiles were launched. The humans had made their point. That was enough. Later, on Helio 7, the colony that was first attacked, the humans came back. Not in anger, but with supplies to rebuild. Drones arrived with tools. AI systems helped restart water and power. The civilians who had survived were calm, focused. They had always known what to do. One Dravari scout, left behind by accident, was captured. He expected torture. Instead, the humans gave him food, water, and a place to rest. He asked a human worker, "Why did you help me?" The worker replied with a small smile, "Because we are not like you." And far beneath Earth, the Warden shut down its outer systems again. Its final report was simple: response complete. Peace maintained, returning to standby mode. The galaxy was quiet once more, but it was no longer the same. Because now, everyone knew the truth. Humanity had not forgotten how to fight. They had simply chosen a better path. But if war came knocking again, they would be ready. And next time, they might not be so kind. The turning point. The Dravari fleet drifted slowly away from human space. Ships that once roared with pride were now quiet. Their lights dimmed, their weapons useless. The commanders didn't speak much. They had lost without even being fired upon. Their honor was wounded deeper than any battle scar. Back on their home planet, the Dravari High Council sat in silence. The chamber was large and cold, filled with sharp edges and dark stone. 10 elders sat around a long metal table, watching the final report from General Krall. He stood before them with lowered eyes. "We struck first. We expected weakness. Instead, we found silence and power." One of the elders hissed, "You shamed us. You brought fear to our people." Krall did not argue. He only nodded. "Yes, but I also brought the truth." Another elder asked, "What truth?" Krall looked up. "That humans are not what we thought." The room grew still. Krall continued, "They did not destroy us. They could have. They stopped us without killing us. They warned us without begging, and they sent no threats, only silence. The council members whispered among themselves. One said, "They waited for us to act first. They gave us a chance to turn back. We didn't." Another added, "They've mastered peace, but hidden war behind it." Krall's voice grew firm. "We can fight them again. We can send more fleets, but we will lose. Not because they are stronger, but because they are smarter." Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Warden monitored the stars. The most systems had returned to sleep mode. The black ship near Mars remained still, acting like a silent guardian. In the Earth Council chambers, the members gathered once more. The old woman who led them spoke. "We have held the line." They backed down, but now comes the harder part. What comes next? Some council members wanted to shut everything down again, let the machines sleep and life return to normal, but others disagreed. One member stood and said, "The galaxy knows now. They have seen our response. Some will respect us. Others will want revenge." The old woman nodded. "Then we must take the next step carefully." At the same time, a new visitor arrived at Earth's outer edge, a small ship, white with blue lights. It carried no weapons. It came from the Neutral Guild, a peaceful group of alien messengers who traveled between empires to keep balance. The ship sent a message. "We request a meeting." The Dravari wished to speak. It was unexpected. The Dravari asking for peace talks? The council agreed. The meeting would happen not on Earth or on Dravari land, but in neutral space, an empty station floating near Saturn, built long ago for diplomatic talks. 1 week later, the leaders met. The Dravari sent Elder Krall. Earth sent a diplomat named Arik, a calm and thoughtful man who had studied alien cultures his whole life. They stood face to face in the silent station. Krall spoke first. "We believed humans were weak. You proved us wrong." Arik replied, "We believed the Dravari were wise. You proved us wrong too." There was a pause. Then Krall said something unexpected. "We want to learn." Arik raised an eyebrow. "Learn?" "Yes," Krall said. "We were taught that peace makes people lazy. You showed us that peace can be a weapon. We want to understand how you did it." Arik was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "We remembered our past. That's how." Krall frowned. "We tried to forget ours." "That's the difference," Arik said. "We studied war. We kept its memory alive. We trained not to use it, but to never need it." Back on the Dravari homeworld, the people were confused. Many were angry. Some called for more war. Others protested in the streets, shouting for peace. Old soldiers told stories of how humans stopped entire fleets without firing. Children watched videos of Earth's calm response, wide-eyed and quiet. And in private schools, Dravari students began reading Earth's ancient books, Sun Tzu, Gandhi, and old Earth war logs. They were trying to understand how peace could be. Stronger than violence. It was a slow change, but a real one. On Elio 7, the human colony that had first been attacked, life had returned to normal. The farms were growing again. The buildings were repaired. The survivors worked side by side with new arrivals from Earth engineers, doctors, builders. But there was also someone new, a Dravari worker. His name was Tal, a young scout who had stayed behind. At first, people avoided him. They didn't trust him, but Tal didn't argue. He worked harder than anyone. He helped fix machines, dig trenches, and even grew food in the gardens. Slowly, people started talking to him, then helping him. One child asked, "Why do you work so much?" Tal smiled and said, "Because I want to understand." That one sentence changed everything. In the Earth Council chamber, Arik returned and gave his report. "They want peace," he said. "Not all of them, not yet, but it's growing." The old woman closed her eyes. "Then we will meet them halfway." She stood and looked out the window at the stars. "We may have stopped a war," she said, "but now we must build something stronger than fear. Trust." And far beyond, in the cold spaces between stars, other alien empires had seen what happened. Some watched in fear, some watched in wonder, but all of them now knew the same thing. Humanity had not become weak, they had become wise. The laugh that echoed. The galaxy had changed. Whispers about the humans filled the star systems. Some called them the Silent Shields. Others called them the Laughing Warriors, because when the Dravari attacked, the humans did not scream or beg, they simply laughed. Not out of arrogance, but because they knew something the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. Peace is not weakness. Peace is a choice made by the strong. Back on Earth, the skies were calm. Children played in the fields. Adults went to work in tall cities powered by clean energy. Yet beneath the surface, the warden still watched. Quiet, patient, ready just in case. Rick, the human diplomat, sat by a small lake near the council building. He had returned from his meetings with the Dravari. His face looked older now, not from stress, but from the weight of change. Beside him sat Tal, the young Dravari who once scouted. ELIO-7. They watched ducks glide over the water. Did you ever think this would happen? Tal asked quietly. Rick smiled. No, but I always hoped. Tal looked up at the sky. My people are scared. I know, Arik said. So are mine. Tal turned to him. Then how do we move forward? Arik threw a small stone into the lake. It bounced twice before sinking. Step by step, he said. One voice at a time. In the Dravari capital, things were changing fast. Schools now taught about Earth's peaceful age. Soldiers were being trained in negotiation as well as combat. Some war factories had even been turned into research labs. Of course, not everyone was happy. Some generals still spoke of revenge. But fewer and fewer followed them. Instead, people began to ask real questions. If the humans could keep peace for 1,000 years, why can't we? On Elio 7, Tal now lived in the colony. He worked in the gardens and helped build new homes. People trusted him now. Children asked him to tell stories about the stars. One even gave him a bracelet made of painted stones. It said one word, friend. He kept it with him always. In the Earth Council chamber, the old woman who led the council stood before a large screen. She was broadcasting not just to Earth, but to all colonies and to neutral channels that could be seen across the galaxy. Her voice was calm, steady. We did not seek this war, but we faced it. We did not destroy our enemy. We showed them another path. And now we invite all who listen, Dravari or anyone else, to speak with us. To fight. Not to fear, but to understand. It was not a command. It was an invitation. And across the stars, people listened. In the days that followed, small ships began arriving in neutral space. Not just from the Dravari, from other species too, ones that had never spoken to humans before. Some were cautious. Some were curious. But all of them were drawn by the same question. How did humans do it? And so, the Earth Council created something new, the Interstellar Peace Forum. It wasn't a government. It wasn't an army. It was a space where enemies could speak, where rivals could share knowledge, and where young leaders from every species could come and learn. At the center of the forum was a large, white circle with a single sentence carved into the stone. Peace is not the end of war. It is the strength to choose another way. Back in space, the black ship that once stopped the Dravari fleet still floated near Mars. It had no weapons visible. No signs of life. Just silence. But that silence spoke louder than 100 cannons. Whenever other species passed nearby, they gave it distance. Some out of respect, some out of fear. But all of them remembered the story. When war came, the humans didn't shout. They didn't panic. They just smiled. Years passed. Tal became one of the first Dravari ambassadors. He worked with human leaders to build bridges between worlds. He was invited to schools to speak and often ended his stories with the same line. the scariest weapon the humans had was kindness. At first, the children laughed, but then they listened. And then they understood. Arik continued his work too. He trained young diplomats, shared human history, and kept in close contact with the warden. One day, while giving a speech to a group of alien students, someone asked him, "Why didn't you destroy the Dravari when you had the chance?" Arik paused, then said, "Because we remembered what came before. A long time ago, we burned everything: cities, skies, even our own hope. But when we finally found peace, we promised ourselves something. If war ever returns, we won't just win. We'll end it better than it began." And so, the story of the 1,000-year peace did not end in war. It ended in growth, in understanding, in a quiet laugh that echoed across galaxies, not as a threat, but as a message. We are still human, but we are more than before. The end.